Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 5th episode of the French Bishop Chess Cast. I am joined here by Chess Chopin and Master Chess Dojo. Today we're talking about the FIDE World Cup, allegations in the US chess, and FIDE's attempt to fix the rating system. John,
Rogan,
I'm good.
how are you, man? I'm actually quite in favor of the, and David, of course, with the chess show, Pat, with the background, the voice I'm very jealous of. Lee Chess has banned covering all U.S. events in light of their overlooking, let's just say, the rehiring and constant employment of coaches that should have been under invested, perhaps harassment and all of that. And I'm quite happy that someone is actually stepping up on behalf of the women who were slighted in this. I mean, there have been some rumors, of course, that this should have and could have been already taken care of, but obviously no one signed an NDA, and these are very hurt individuals that do have a voice. And I am happy that Lee Chess is standing up, at least in their own way, with their own power.
I would like to add that legally speaking, I don't think there's any NDA in the world that covers illegal activity.
No, but I mean, if they have made a settlement and they in theory have taken care of this with some sort of let's say complaints have been made, and complaints should have at least by now been investigated. Usually, if there was a settlement involved to try to appease those who were victims of such abuse or occurrences, then the normal part of it is to have a non-disclosure agreement that the matter is settled and that it won't be spoken further of. But there continue to be further discussions of this amongst the women that may or may not directly have been involved. I know I have been disturbed because, not just because I have two daughters, but because I've had many women and girls national champions in the past, and I would think that something should be done immediately. It's not just taken care of later. I mean, as a fan of, let's just say, movie stars that may have been accused of such things in the past, just take Kevin Spacey, for example. Kevin Spacey's name was recently cleared of sexual misconduct allegations. He was actually found not guilty, and he can now work again. But the whole time that he was under investigation, or that the trial, or that the process was underway, he did not work anywhere. No one promoted his movies. No one even spoke of him in the Hollywood community while he was under investigation. But in the U.S. Chess Federation, it's thought, it's not a big deal. We'll just hire these coaches again. Well, we're not going to actually take these things seriously. And the women's rights to be heard are unfortunately discounted. And Lee Chess is making a step to recognizing that someone must be sanctioned on behalf of these activities. And it has to be the U.S. Chess Federation, and the events that the U.S. Chess Federation holds, so be it, because we need to make a statement. Someone with a voice needs to help these women and their plights be heard. And this to me should be a huge boon for those of you who are chess.com fans, because chess.com will rush right in there and they will cover these events regardless of the rights of the women involved who were not duly investigated. They'll be quite happy to make money on this. I really stepped into it there, didn't I, Rogan? But I'm telling you that they're going to more than gratefully cover all the U.S. events, as well they should, because green is good.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is an opportunity that's not going to be missed. But yeah, we'll see how this thing will evolve, because there should be some investigation going, and wherever it happened, it will
for quite some time
get through.
And I know Rogan does do some work for the U.S. Chess Federation for U.S. Chess, so I know that he would prefer to abstain on this, but he can stand up for anyone if you'd like at any time. I can't see him on camera, so he might be
or his mic died again.
My mic died here again. I was saying stuff, and I was like, "Why the hell are they not respecting me?" Stop it. My mic did die. Okay, but I will carry on, and I will say, if anybody is unclear, this is based off an article from Lead Chess that does a reasonably decent expose of the alleged events. Basically, chess commentator and author Jennifer Shahade publicly accused Alejandro Ramirez of sexual misconduct. Her allegations her public allegations, I might add, sparked a swift and severe backlash against him, of course, and he was forced to resign from the St. Louis Chess Club before permanently banned by the United States Chess Federation. I believe from Jennifer Shahade's own mouth, she has said that she publicly did this because she has felt that US chess was not doing their due diligence in properly making sure this alleged abuser, I guess, has not been properly dealt with by her first point of contact, which was a complaint to the United States Chess Federation. And Ramirez is, according to the article, there are other allegations of other such misconduct by other people. And there is another high profile case. For instance, Uzbek American Grandmaster Timur Garayev.
Garayev.
I don't think I want to exactly get into it, but we have come to the conclusion that the US chess maybe didn't do the obviously didn't do the greatest job they obviously could, and it sounds like that law enforcement should be more involved. Although I must stick up for US chess just a tiniest bit and say that in such cases they're between a rock and a hard place. They can't believe absolutely every allegation, but they must yet do something. So this is why I do believe that law enforcement should have probably taken a more prominent role in this, because this is allegations of a crime, and these are serious allegations of a crime, and this is law enforcement's job more than anything. And after it's proven in a court of law, then all sanctions are just.
But this is also, in a sense, more along the lines of workplace harassment than it is a criminal case. I mean, if I were, and I will admit that in my old school ways in the past, I have been insensitive myself and had to apologize and correct my ways, because I know that being of a certain age is no excuse for objectifying anyone or treating anyone as less than an equal. And at the same time, anything physical, which thankfully I'm not necessarily so keen on, but for the most part, anything physical, I can't entirely see bringing the police in for things that are obviously workplace job on the job harassment type things where people feel uncomfortable. For example, when Smirin made the remarks about how women should be coached because they're different from men, or why women are weaker, what Smirin claimed, which is obviously not true. I mean, both Joel Benjamin and Grandmaster Joel Benjamin and I were, I think, in South America, and one of the Russian coaches comes up and goes, "Oh, women just don't see these things on diagonals. That is why they are not as good, you know." And then he kept on walking, and we're like looking at each other, going, "I don't know if diagonals has anything to do with it. I think that we just need to train our students better to give them the tools and the exercises to work on these weaknesses. It has nothing to do with the fact that we write them off."
I will make a point. I will make a quick point that this is not just allegations of workplace harassment, although sexual harassment it can be both. It can be both.
That is
but
also
there's these allegations that that of literal sexual assault. So it's not simply
sexual assault. Indeed, I'm saying that those can be, but many of the others, these are also this is basically not being treated properly in all ways. it's a corporate cultural atmosphere of this happens all the time. We don't really need to worry about it type attitude that the women are objecting to. It is true that the police should be involved for the sexual harassment. I mean, for the sexual abuse. Let's just put the inappropriate touching of players and things like that. But on average, the corporate culture of this is okay is inherent and possibly not just dangerous to women, but to children and chess players of all ages to a certain extent. To teach people that this is okay by not punishing it properly or investigating it properly, and then reporting back with results, basically saying we've dealt with this, we're apologizing publicly on behalf of these things that happened, but none of these things have happened from the U.S. Chess Federation.
I believe they have probably put out a statement at this point, apologizing for some of some of the things they've been accused of. I believe it's lower in the article. I'm not sure. You can do your own research. There's this article that does a much better job than us. Will be in the show notes. Go ahead, John.
But they're saying that until late June, the U.S. Chess kept the sanctions of the complaint and of the people who were involved a secret. And when the complainants were informed of the sanctions, they were also asked to handle the information with the sensitivity that it deserves, and they were not addressed publicly or announced. And the only sign that anything was unusual was a small change on U.S. Chess's Garayev's member page, which showed suspended member for the duration of his membership. He's just a suspended member. It's like there is no public announcement. There was no public addressal. I mean, it might have happened in the last few days since this occurred, but we will see. I will check the U.S. Chess page to see if there's something there. But in general, it is highly irresponsible to not address the situation directly with those who are most concerned about the matter, not just us as the public, but for Jennifer, for all of those that were involved. They deserve to be heard in general, and their concerns should be addressed with a press statement, as you pointed out.
Most definitely, but I do believe that the U.S. chess is in a bit of a problem where they're probably not qualified to investigate anything with any real level of. I don't know anything about U.S. chess's structure, but I will say that I wouldn't believe them to be amazingly competent in any investigation, because I don't believe any chess body is probably competent of any sort of investigation into this sort of deal with any great accuracy. And that's why that's honestly why I believe that everything should come from a legal point of view, because
I have worked for the U.S. Chess Federation on a couple of separate occasions, and I know that they have an executive board, and that executive board, pardon my lead chess notification, that executive board actually has access to lawyers, and some of which already are lawyers. Former members of the executive board have been lawyers. And it doesn't take much to discuss this amongst the 7 members of the executive board to say, hey, we have to address this, or do we sweep it under the carpet and say that it's been addressed. So while Jennifer Shahade was assured that Alejandro would no longer be involved with the U.S. Chess Federation for any coaching roles, then they announced him last year as the coach, and that the players on the team had selected him themselves, for the 22 Olympiad for the women. So he was appointed as the captain after Jennifer Shah. And this, of course, guess what? She had to take this. No longer was she going to address this secretively and with the due sensitivity. She took it to the appropriate news channels and justice. I mean, I know Alejandro. I would like to believe that something different had happened. But if this is what happened, then it needs to be addressed properly.
And this is why I believe that
And I agree whether they address
This
it legally or
and this
not,
is why I
they can't
believe
be
that
approaching him as a
US
coach.
chess is in a hard. This point will sound very bad from a certain point of view, but you know there are false allegations out there, you know, and while I personally believe these allegations are completely legitimate and they did the wrong thing here by allowing Alejandro to continue working in places where where vulnerable people could be found. Uh, it's very hard for somebody, you know, it comes down to, maybe it comes down to a lot of the time he said she said, and it's very hard for a deliberation to it's very I would think it's very hard for US chess to take away absolutely all the money making opportunities from someone due to an allegation. I mean, I do believe there is side of the story that, you know, there is a better way of looking at it from the point of US chess is that what can they really do? They can either they can't. It's you did if you do, you did if you don't. You know, it's you can't wreck someone's life based on an allegation unless the allegations are seriously credible. Which over time they probably did get more and more credible as more and more people came out. But at the start of this controversy, I'm sure it was one person, and they were like, well, can we actually do something without can we actually do something without risking a lawsuit by taking away somebody's ability to earn money, right? Because Alejandro, you know, he guilty as he might be, allegedly as guilty as he
Allegedly.
might be, there might be someone else on the future who is just not guilty of these things, and somebody's gone and made a false allegation, and then they handle it like you know, then they handle it like you think they should have, and this guy no longer has coaching, and he's got aspersions that are going to be very hard to clear up all over his name, and
Well, he hasn't. That's assuming that he hasn't had
that
a
is
proper
assuming, but
investigation.
you would think that there would be findings of a legal, you know, there would in a legal investigation there would be findings.
I believe that enough people,
Yeah,
enough separate individuals, came forward with claims against him not being given another coaching spot while
yeah.
the investigation continues. It's not unlike Kevin Spacey not getting offered any movie deals for like
Mm.
so many years while they wait for
My
this
point
court case to
my
come to
point is,
trial.
when did they know
Now,
this?
of
When
course,
did it stop being
when
one person and start being a bunch of different people? And that's when you start. That's I think that's when you can start blaming US chess for what they did. Before that, it's very hard for you.
Yeah, but I believe U.S. Chess knew. I'm positive that U.S. Chess may or may not have been aware of complaints previously, but it's unfortunately the culture of the environment. As Sabrina Shavanas, in a Twitter post over the last couple of days, has noted, uh, that everyone around her would tell her, "Don't worry, this is okay. He does this all the time. It's no big deal." Meanwhile, while she feels assaulted, and she's reporting it very publicly on Twitter. She did not necessarily name the person in the Twitter, but it doesn't really matter for the most part. It's the culture of the atmosphere of chess that we're just going to forgive that person and say, you know, he does this all the time. It's no big deal. It's just accepted behavior.
Yeah.
And that culture of
Well,
accepted
that's
behavior for things
absolutely
like this has
terrible.
to go away.
There's no kind way of looking upon it upon that.
When approached for comment, U.S. Chess provided Lee Chess, not necessarily the public, but U.S. Chess provided Lee Chess with the following statement that they are committed to be treated with respect and stuff like that. You know, it's like they have a list of safe play for safe sport, tournament directors, and things like that. So we'll see what happens for the most part.
Yeah,
Am I gone?
it's a very, yeah. You did go for a second. It unfortunately is a very delicate subject where there's very little right ways to, you know. There's very little clear cut ways of going about things. Yeah, terrible thing, and I think there should be. I think you know, allegations such as that should be settled in a court of law. But that's my opinion. By the way, to US chess, I'm from New Zealand. You can't sue me, but you can sue John.
No, I mean, I don't believe that Alejandro should be unnecessarily sanctioned without a proper investigation. I mean, it's possible that he may have stepped down voluntarily from whatever gigs as well while the investigation continues. But there are a lot of things that it's unfortunate, you know. I think of Alejandro formerly. I thought of him as a nice guy. I liked him a lot. But if what is being said is true, the alleged the alleged accounts have to be investigated and dealt with properly. Not cool.
It truly is not, and it's not
cool.
It's not a story I like to. It's not
true.
a story I want to cover. It's a story. It's a story that's there. Yeah. It's undeniable. So what's our next? Story?
FIDE has some suggested proposed rating changes for those players under 2,000.
So, John,
I think we can also address that.
We could, yeah. So this is another chess organization who's making questionable decisions. No, but no, this one's on a slightly different nature. So one of the essential assets that FIDE is overseeing is FIDE ratings, which, if anybody knows what ELO is all about, it's basically a math problem that you put in a couple, you put in two numbers, and you get or in a win-loss score, and you get a rating change based off that. I think equation is probably the best way of putting it. Since adopting the ELO system rating in 1970, the rules and formulas for calculating ratings have undergone numerous changes, and the number of rated players has grown exponentially. In the past decade, certain innovations have caused rating deflation, a concern that has been raised by professional players and mathematicians, and did not go unnoticed by FIDE. Players' ratings are spread out too widely, and the situation is deteriorating with each passing year. The problem arises due to various factors, including the minimal rating being a rating being set too low at 1,000 points, changes to the famous 400-point rule, and the way the initial ratings were calculated. Okay, so my opinion on this really is that everyone's packing a sook for no real reason, and they're trying to fix a problem that doesn't seem to actually exist.
I agree with you to a great extent. I would like to believe that you should not fix something that isn't broken. However, I do believe that the starter ratings are appropriately different for those of different age groups. Let's take, for example, the starter rating of 1,400 or 1,600 on chess.com, or on 1,600 or 1,200 on leadchess.com. I know that kids and student accounts start off much lower for a starter rating on Lichess, as opposed to an adult account that starts at 1,600 as the base rating. They start at the average rating in theory, and the way the rating system essentially, I'm just going to try to give a very simplified version of how it works based on a 400-point swinging scale, is that everyone within 400 rating points of you should be beatable. If you're beating people that are greater than 400 points above you, then you should be pushed up incrementally a little bit faster. But if you are losing to players 400 points below you, more than 400 points below you on any regular or random basis, then you should be pushed down a little bit more quickly than incrementally. And the K factor, let's just say, for all intents and purposes of 32 in the U.S. Chess Federation, by the way, for the average player, 32. So if you're playing someone 400 points above you, basically you would win 32 points if you were to beat someone 400 or more rating points above you. But if you beat someone the same rating, it would be 16 rating points. But if you lose to someone 400 rating points below you, you would lose 32. This means that for every 100 rating points, that we would tack on another 4 rating points. So you lose to someone rated for 100 points below you, you'll lose 20 rating points. But if you beat someone rated 100 rating points above you, it'll be 20 points of a gain. Now, as you get stronger, this is the way the rating system has been working. The K factor, instead of being 32 across that 400 points, is reduced to 12 and 8, in fact, at the highest level. So the K factor of 8, that means that you lose only 2 rating points. Basically, to a certain extent, if you lose to somebody 100 points below you. And this sort of protects things that are higher. And at the bottom end of the scale, I don't know that the K factor shouldn't be something along. Although I haven't reviewed the rating changes, I do believe that if they have changed it from the 400-point rule, and they are thinking about restoring the 400-point rule to its earlier state, I think that all we need to ensure the younger players who are underrated, and granted, I agree with this. I've lost a lot of rating points to young Norwegian players that are rated 1700 FIDE, but they're playing at 2100 level because their rating can't get higher fast enough. Basically, I don't know what the consolation is for all of us who've been losing rating points to all the underrated players over these years. But yeah, they should be allowing for some form of bonus or a higher, as they're pointing out, they're raising the minimum rating from 1,000 to 1,400 to starting as a starting rating.
Okay,
so that could help.
We're going to let Chess Chopin has his opinion, of course, because that is a somewhat necessary thing. And also, if Chess Chopin could give the audience an explanation of what a K factor is, just in case we didn't cover that.
But what do you think, David? Certainly, if someone's losing to a player under 2,000, David, I think that we are in trouble. If they started at 1,000 and their rating hasn't incrementally been
that's the
adjusted
thing
up.
with like a lot of these people, they mostly play online and they will improve a lot quicker than their over the board rating, and some of them might never even have played over the board tournament or like a rated game, and then they're probably like around like master level. So I mean, I think it's a nice idea, but
well, I'm anxious to see what my one-time rating increase on the January 2024 rating list will be, because my rating also fell below 2,000 from my 2,200, average. I believe I was 2,195 when I began, and losing to the young Norwegian players over a period of 10 years, giving away a couple hundred rating points. I would like to see some return on my investment if they actually are admitting that they were not calculating.
But will they like change the calculations from the older games, or just like new ones from starting next year? Because
well, all players rated below 2,000, and that's what I'm reading. All players rated below 2,000, which constitutes 85% of the population, will be given a one-time rating increase on the January 2024 list.
Well, it's not the same. The first time they did this kind of like increasing rating, they also did that. Yes,
they did it for women, right?
But she didn't got it
days
because
Tia Gramling got half. I think all women got a couple of hundred rating points. Tia Gramling got half of that because she was playing in men's events, and the Polgar sisters got none of the increase.
Makes no sense.
Yeah. I also do like John's idea for some rating compensation. I have reached out to Chess Comments here. I think I'm around about 2,100. So if you could if you could take on those extra points, I'd be awfully appreciative. But they didn't seem to take my call. It's very unfortunate,
They have something similar going on though. Like let's say you played against someone that was using engine assistance. So they will get caught, they'll get banned, but then chess.com will refund you the points. So imagine you played like against a bunch of them, and then you get some messages that you got like 40 rating points, which I've had those messages.
Indeed. I've only gotten, over a period of time, I've only gotten 2 in one day, I think, from Lead Chess. That's my record.
But chess is a different system.
A total of 14 points back
because Lead Chess.
But they also refund.
Only like
they refund the rating points.
Last 30 games, I think, and they take into consideration the highest rating you had.
Oh, that's true. They don't.
Yeah,
it may be similar in chess.com though, because I don't actually know if if they refund the points if they catch them like after a certain amount of time. Like
I think chess.com refunds you.
Okay.
All the points, I think.
But for all time? Let's just say I play my good friend Ron Hay, who I've played 362 games against, and tomorrow they ban me. Will he get all of
Probably.
the 180 wins
I
of the
think so.
360?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
I
now
think so.
John
Winning
is
points
going to be
back.
what?
I
20,
don't
20,
think, I don't
no,
think
no,
he's,
Ron He's going to be like 2,600. Like,
he'll be 2,600 if he gets all the rating
That's
points
actually
back.
crazy.
So that's not possible.
I'm a
That
GM
wouldn't be
and I didn't
realistic
know
for
it.
them to give back all the ratings for the last 30 years.
I think I've like 3 months maybe.
90 days seems very reasonable, but still, there's no guarantee that the person was actually cheating in all of those
Yeah, I
games
don't
to
know.
actually refund those points. What happens is usually the event in which the person was caught cheating, and this has happened, I would say once a month, perhaps. In my group, someone will come in with a brand new account and speed run his way up to 22 or 2,300. And then by the ninth round of my event, his account is closed, and all of us have gotten a refund because he's busted within the scope of our 9-round Swiss, which I hold every day. And once the school year started, we're going to go back to a 6-round Swiss Monday through Friday, probably. But at the moment during the summer, we can run a 9-round Swiss every day of the week. And it's nice and long enough to actually bust somebody. Usually, these players disappear after the third or fourth round of being undefeated. They actually drop out so that they don't try to push their luck. And they still get caught, and we all get a refund. But it doesn't happen all that often. But it would be nice if the players. I'm anxious to see where my rating stands on the January 2024 list, since it dropped below 2,000, losing to so many players rated 1,400 or something like that in FIDE, when they're much stronger. They're actually, their national ratings are like 2,100, but their FIDE rating is 1,400. And there seems to be no correlation between acknowledging the national rating on their starter rating, which is what I think they really should include in their calculation improvements. So if a person has a national rating, like in South Africa, for example, if one of those players were rated 1,500 and he or she were, let's say she was on the top 10 list for the country, should she start
come
at
on,
1,000
John. I want
as
the
a brand
ability
new
to
FIDE
go to
rated player?
America and beat up and get the prize money for the under 1,000. My God-given right.
But even Bill Koichberg, the former president of the U.S. Chess Federation, Bill Koichberg, the number one organizer of the Continental Chess Association, who runs amazing events across our country with large prize funds, automatically takes into account when he puts you in a section, Roken, he will hunt down every realistic rating and he will nail you to the wall board with the highest possible rating. So you can't come in with the FIDE rating easily alone.
What's he gonna do?
Your
Find my
local New
quit?
Zealand rating, he'll find your Canadian rating, and if you played for 2 weeks in Zimbabwe, he will find that rating as well.
What if you never played?
I credit Bill Goichberg with a very serious fair play and placement of players. Even if somebody's found out, somebody starts winning 3 to 4 games in the under 1,400 section, and they will be looked into the moment they start appearing in the line for the prize money, and they can be booted out. In fact, it's actually happened in Continental Chess Association events after the event was over. They go to the front desk for their check, and they find
But
out
why?
they're no longer eligible. Yep, and the money is divided amongst the remaining players in the section.
Isn't possible?
If they entered the section with a much higher rating than they were supposed to be in that section for under any federation.
What if they never played?
So if they had a Canadian rating that was 2,000 and they're in the under 1,400 section because they have other ratings that claim that, if those ratings are found to be them, then they
what if someone never played?
Ineligible for prizes. Then they have to play in the unrated section or in the open section. They cannot play in an under 1,400 section. Bill Koichberg doesn't allow any players without a rating at all to play in the under 1,600 or the under 1,800 with a $10,000 first prize. Basically, yes, they're $10,000, $12,000 first prizes. in Foxwoods, the year that I tied for
because
first,
those
I
one
split $9,000
because those
with another
1,000
fellow
the
who
elo players were just counting on that prize money to pay for the hotel and stuff because
Yep. And the coach.
they were just like,
indeed.
yeah, I need to win it. I don't know. That seems a little bit weird to have a prize that high, but the most I've ever won from chess is like $20. So, I mean, it brought lunch.
Well, you also have to take into account the staking community, which is very, very big in the poker world. The staking community. Let's just say that you, Rogan, have the strength of a 2,200 player, and your rating for whatever reason is,
1,300.
let's say New Zealand
Yeah.
1,400 local or something like that. I'm just gonna aim downwards on purpose, but let's just say, for example, Velcro Dot, who's in Canada, when she was 1,300, I thought I wanted to make a deal that she could play in the World Open the following year, but she had to establish herself as a player and all of that, study very hard, and then go into the under 1,400 section of the World Open and take it by storm. And basically, I would pay half of the entry fee or even all of the entry fee for 50% of the prize. If I could stake someone such as yourself or David with a rating, and basically, I'm going to put you into this event as my horse, my staking horse, and you are going to win this event, and then you're going to split the prize money with me. You have no risk because I'm going to pay the $400 entry fee
Oh, damn.
and the
That's generous.
hotel
That
and
sounds
all
like
of
a
that.
deal.
And all you have to do is win. That's how a staking horse works in a lot of.
Sorry,
a lot
John,
of
but I think you should have seen me this bad form coming.
No, I've been staked. I've been staked in billiards tournaments, and
But wait.
and I've
How does
staked
this
other
work?
players in
That
World
sounds
Open.
that sounds like gambling.
Well, basically, when Grandmaster Mark Arnold played in his very first World Open, because I wanted him to play in it, the mother said, "Renee, as sweet as she is, $400 is a heck of an entry fee." And I said, "Well, if it's any consolation, I will pay half of the entry fee for half of the prize." And basically, within the under 1,400 section, there was an under 1,200 rated prize, and Mark Arnold earned a nice portion of the under 1,200 rated prize in the under 1,400 section. So I made $700, or I got a $500 profit on my $200 investment.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's being
He
screwed.
got, I think, roughly he got five or 5.5 points in that first World Open in the under 1,400 section. He's later to go on to become a grandmaster. But after that, she didn't want me to stake him anymore. She didn't want to share the prize.
I mean,
But I'm
But
actually
joking
curious
partly.
because
We never really discussed.
I don't have
taking
any
after that.
rating.
yeah, he's like the perfect candidate. He's extremely strong. They can't prove anything. He's
So
Well, you should also consider how StakeKings.com works. This is not a paid advertisement for Stake Kings. We're not getting anything, but there is a website for staking
we can
players if you are in certain fields, and you will see someone trying to sell pieces of themselves. The most popular person to purchase, let's just say, might be Daniel Negreanu. When he enters, he will offer up 5% of himself on Stake Kings, and you can actually take a piece of a professional poker player, when he enters the World Series of Poker for various measures. You know what I mean? So you are part of Team Negreanu, which is not a bad place to be if you like, Daniel Negreanu or Chris Moneymaker or any of the other players. Chris Moneymaker has been doing well. He's a super nice guy. And those players do try to share a little bit of the popularity with their fans by using Stake Kings and other sites.
I also
to give you a chance. Yeah, we'll talk more about staking later, perhaps in another type of podcast. But in general, these events and these ratings have to be considered accurate to a great extent if the system's going to work properly. So we can't use FIDE ratings in the United States so easily alone because they are, as FIDE realizes, under the rating of 2,000, a little bit suspect.
I also didn't knew that there were like such high prices for like an under 2,000.
Well, overall, I believe Bill Goitsberg's World Open offers $500,000 in prizes across 10 sections. The New York Open, one of my favorites actually, back in the day, Heraldica Imports and Jose Cucci. I used to read about it all the time when I was living in the Midwest, and my dream was to come to New York. And I remember there was a little known untitled player that came into the New York Open in 1988, and he won with, I don't know if it was 8 out of 8 or 8 out of 9. And one of my good friends, Don Henley, with his Texas, not Ron Henley, not Don Henley of the musical world. Ron Henley, Grandmaster Ron Henley, was standing at the wall chart and famously, according to the New York community, exclaimed, this is my Ron Henley impression, it's a terrible one, I apologize in advance, "Who is this Ivanchuk fella anyway? No rating, no title, winning 8 in the New York Open in 1988, It's like, where did he come from? And I believe John Fedorowicz might have won the 1989 World Open. I mean, New York Open. Both of those were New York Opens, not the World Opens. But in general, there are a lot of prizes to be had, and the lower sections do supplement the prizes of the,
And what is
the top
like
sections.
this is like online? It's called like sandbagging, like when someone is not playing according to their rating.
Or Smurfing.
Yes, but
yeah.
But they take into account your peak ratings and where your peak ratings were versus where you are now. So, if, in fact, in the most recent evolution of these fair play rules, you can't be so many points below your peak rating without that. So, for example, because I have been over 2,200, my floor is actually 2,000 in U.S. chess. I actually cannot play in any section below the
Makes
one
sense.
below the open section. So I'm not allowed. My rating is not allowed
John,
to go
I've
any
got some
further
disappointing news for you.
down.
I'm technically 1508 in rapid, but I am 12. I am 1213 and I'm 1213 in blitz. So if we can get a blitz, so we can get a blitz going on. Yeah,
Blitz tournament. There you go.
Yeah,
He's ready to be staked.
Yep.
He's ready to be staked.
Selling
Also, like-
parts of me at
There have been people that have told they want it. I've had people say they want to stake me in my poker development on occasion, and if I could take it seriously for any period of time, I would love to take those people up on it. But I don't see it as a reasonable investment of my time as a chess coach and a chess professional to put that much more effort into poker. I do put a certain amount of effort into poker and billiards and pool, but at the same time, I'm very realistic about wasting other people's money in those areas.
I mean,
It wouldn't be worthwhile.
I think I have new
Meanwhile,
plans now because,
ADHD
speaking of
medication
things-
seems like you're fixed.
There you go.
Anyway,